Welcome back to another Super Mario Bros. Devlog. If you remember from the last video, I've gone and already laid out the first level of the game using the time map feature. I also managed to get the camera to actually follow Mario as he moves around using Cinemachine. What I want to do next is to enhance the gameplay and actually add the enemies. So let's get started. I want to first start with the enemies animations. Because I've already done a bit of animating with Mario, this went pretty quickly. I did find a new way of doing it though, which could be quite useful in the future. How I normally do it is by using this animation tree connection thing, but I figured that you don't really need this. Instead, if you want to change to a certain animation, you literally just use the animated.play function and the name of the animation you want to switch to, and bam, done. Now you don't need to go and change the animation parameters or add transfers, so I could save a bit of time and confusion in the animation tree. Because I mean, damn, look at this thing for Mario. Anyways, for the Goomba, I have the walking and then also the squashing animations. And for the Koopa, I've put in the walking animation in either direction, and then also added the one where it goes back into its shell when Mario jumps on it. And this got me thinking, why does Mario have enemies? And I think I have the answer. So Mario likes to eat mushrooms to, grow. And those Goombas look like mushrooms. Maybe they're cousins. Who knows? Now think about it. How would you feel if someone went around just eating your cousins all the time? I'd say you'd be pretty hacked. Well, how do you think the Goombas feel? As for the Koopa, that turtle thing, I think Mario just pissed him off somehow. That's about the only thing I can think of. Or maybe he just really doesn't like moustaches. Anyways, I think that's enough coding for today. So I'm going to leave it here and then hopefully catch up a bit later. Just before I go, there's this idea that students don't have a lot of money because you see all these student specials all the time, and I'd like to let you guys know that that's true. So if you haven't noticed already, this is my home office. It's actually also my room and it's quite small. I can literally touch that wall, but it works. Just so you guys know, you're going to be seeing this in almost all of my videos, so you better get used to it. Anyways, that was just for anyone that was curious, and if that's no one, then this is pretty awkward. What I want to do today is the enemy movements. They seem pretty simple because they just move at a constant speed, and whenever they hit a pipe, they just change direction. It shouldn't be too bad to implement. So let's get going. Hopefully I'll have an update for you guys soon. With Mario's movements, I used a rigid body component that was set to dynamic and used the add force function to get him to move. I tried this with the enemies but couldn't get the movement how I wanted it. Instead, I looked at some documentation and found that you could use the kinematic setting instead of the dynamic. So I just set the enemy's velocity to a certain value and just changed the direction of the velocity whenever they collided with a pipe. I also saw that when you use the kinematic setting, gravity doesn't affect the game object. So I went and coded the falling movement when there's nothing under the enemies. I'm kinda happy with how it's looking, but it's getting a little late, so I think I'm gonna leave it here and catch up with you guys a bit later. While I was at the faculty today, I got a bit of time to just look at the collisions between Mario and the enemies. It's not much, but this is what I have so far. I just fixed it, so now Mario disappears when he gets hit by one of the enemies, if he didn't jump on them. I'm gonna spend some time before dinner just to see if I can fix it up a bit more. Okay, sick. So it's almost dinner time and I wanted to give you guys a quick update before I go eat. I was struggling a bit with getting the collisions to work because of the colliders I'm using. Each enemy has two colliders, one that's responsible for the collision between the enemy and the floor so they don't just fall through. I use the other collider to check if Mario jumps on them or not. The confusing part is that one of the colliders is set to trigger and the other not. The reason for this is because if they both trigger or both not trigger, then it's quite difficult to figure out what collision happened. This doesn't seem the best way to do it, but it made sense while I was busy coding. If you guys know of a better way, please let me know in the comments. I managed to figure out some of the collisions. So now when Mario jumps on the Goomba, it does that squash animation and then disappears. And when he jumps on the Koopa, it does the animation where it goes back into its shell. Okay, so the last thing I did was fixing up some of the basic collisions with the enemies. Now what I remember from the gameplay is that when Mario jumps on the Koopa, he can then jump on it again and it'll shoot off. So I'm going to try to do that now. I think I got it working, so let me quickly show you. When Mario jumps on the Koopa, it goes into its shell. and if he hits it again, it starts moving in the opposite direction Mario hits it from. This direction thing really messed with me because somewhere else in my code I saw that the direction actually wasn't changing, so nothing was happening like I wanted it to. I took a quick look at my code and realized that it's all just so messy. Like when I try to look at some of the code I did in the beginning and try and understand it, my brain decides, you know what, this isn't worth it, I'm not keen to do this, I'm gonna take a nap, and then it stops and shuts down. I think I know the reason for this though, and it's because I don't put comments in my code. So one thing I'm going to be doing from now on is I'm actually going to be commenting my code. But like most of you know, you say that and then later down the line you realize that you have no comments and you're in the exact same position as you are right now. While I was busy with coding the Koopa's movements, I also decided to fix Mario's dying animation. So now when Mario hits the enemies, he does this animation with a little jump and then falls off the screen. I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to show you guys. Turns out that wasn't everything. I don't know if you guys have had this, but sometimes when I work on a project, especially coding projects, even when I'm not supposed to be working on it and just relaxing, my brain's still trying to figure things out and see if I can actually fix some of the problems. That happened the other day when I was supposed to be busy with something else. So I went back to the game and thought that instead of using the kinematic setting, I could just use the dynamic setting, because then I wouldn't have to write the code for them falling. Because my code at the moment has this weird bug and I'm not really sure how to fix it, because I think it has something to do with the collisions. I figured that you could still set the velocity for a dynamic rigid body, and it would still be affected by gravity, which should fix the bug. But it didn't work. I literally spent so much time trying to come up with a fix, but nothing was working. And what also happened was that I didn't save a previous version of my code. So I had to spend even more time to go back and fix this code to actually get it working again. I guess the old saying is actually true. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Now I think that's everything for the enemies. I'm really enjoying the project at the moment, and I must say that I'm learning quite a bit. I've also realized that it's not super complicated concepts, yet anyways, which means that I can learn things pretty quickly and get them working, which helps a lot with motivation. I hope you guys are enjoying keeping up to date with my progress as much as I am. See you guys in the next devlog.